Good evening, guys. Good to speak to you again as we continue in this lockdown, coronavirus lockdown, COVID-19 shutdown. And I thought I'd put a little information video, if you like, up there about what's been in the papers today regarding Chelsea. And last night, I don't know if you saw, guys, I was on Claude's channel, going to Claude. And we were talking about various bits and pieces how the season sort of been panning out up until the lockdown, and the ramifications as to the league going forward. If you didn't get a chance to see that, guys, just basically just go and either go on the Chelsea SW6 Facebook group. It's actually up on that. But apart from that, you can actually go and watch it on Claude's channel direct. As I say, Guna Claude on YouTube. So if you fancy that, guys, have a peek. So let's have a look at what's in the news as such with regards to Chelsea at the moment. Sky Sports, let's start off with them, and our ex-manager Maurizio Sarri, and he was mentioning about there being in the first 6 months a conflicting kind of relationship between him and the players, a bit of a locker room scenario where let's put it like this, he's not the most enigmatic manager. He's not a sort of people's person type. He's quite reserved, isn't he, in comparison to sort of the way Frank operates and the likes of Jose Mourinho, Jurgen Klopp and the like sort of thing. But I took the liberty of making some notes about what he said, and he actually said that in the first 6 months at the club that he had a bit of a conflicting sort of relationship with the players, a bit of an indifferent relationship with the players, and it's rather interesting that, and I kind of question that really, because if you remember the first 12 games we were completely and utterly unbeaten, and you would have thought that would have been the time where the players were sort of looking at the way he was setting up, all this talk about sorry ball and everything else, but you would have thought that they would have been more intuitive and more sort of trusting in his methods, bearing in fact that we'd actually gone 12 games without actually losing a match. So I find that a bit of a conflict really with what he's saying there. But his actual words were, and as I say, I took the liberty of writing it down, was it's not the players who change, but the surroundings. You need more time. And I had a conflicting relationship with Chelsea in the locker room, but when he left, he cried his eyes out, and so did some of the players. And in the end, he had quite a positive relationship with them. And he goes on to say, I'm not the type of guy who pats you on the back or the shoulder. If you make a mistake, I'll tell you. If you do well, most you'll get out of me is a bravo. Or as indeed you walk past me. But he does go on to say that a lot of the his former players, continue to keep in contact with him, but also tapping him for information because they've got aspirations of being managers themselves. I think if you evaluate Maurizio Sarri and the year that he did have at the football club, you have to say it was quite successful, really. I mean, we managed to finish in that top 4 position. We qualified for the Champions League. We got to the League Cup final, and we won the Europa League, smashing Arsenal in the final in Baku, and that was with. But it was a bit of a. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't a kind of like a relationship as such with the supporters. I don't think we sang his name at all. I think the only time we did sing his name was from a negative perspective. So I don't know what to make of that, guys. Perhaps you can let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts on that one. But to say that the first 6 months at the club was a bit of a conflicted scenario, again, I would say, well, I don't really get that, because that was a period of time where we didn't lose a game, you know. And we were certainly reasonably happy with everything at the start, you have to say, like, you know. And then, of course, it all went a bit Pete Tong and we did lose some heavy, get some heavy defeats. Especially that one that springs to mind is the away performances at Watford and at Bournemouth. But then that performance in the League Cup final against Manchester City, which went to penalties, with all intents and purposes, I think we deserved to win that. I think we kind of stepped up again, from that moment onwards. But as I say, let us know what you think down below, guys. Interesting, to say the least. Let's have a look at what other news is in the papers. And so I managed to write. This is quite interesting. It's something I brought up with Claude last night. If you did get to see it, it was referenced David Luiz. And I wonder what you think about this, guys. It was an interview that he'd done with ESPN Brazil. And it's been covered in all the major papers, Sun, all the tabloids, etc. But he actually, and I took the liberty of again writing it down word for word. He says, I questioned why I joined Arsenal. I was always happy at Chelsea. I left and then it happened too quickly. Arsenal didn't come to a great moment. This is a bit of a cryptic one. He said they had weight on their defence, so I had to pay the restaurant bill without having eaten. My love for Chelsea is true, and he feels sadness for the Chelsea fans not understanding his personal decision. My respect and love for Chelsea has always been true, and it's difficult to deal with the emotional part. I often wonder why this decision was made and why is this happening. More interesting, and I put it to Claude actually. He was on the bit of the back foot because he never actually see that write-up, but he kept drawing to the point where David Luiz done an interview with Ian Wright, and he was saying that how he was absolutely buzzing, at the club and everything else. But of course, this is rather interesting because it kind of paves the way. I mean, if I was to dissect that and look at it from a philosophical perspective, I would say here that he left, he made that decision, but maybe he should have taken a little bit of time out to decide where he was going next. Yes, he was joining Arsenal and was going to slot in straight away into that defensive role, but perhaps he didn't realise how big a job it was and how much of responsibility it was going to be falling on his shoulders. Because of the way he left and because he went to a rival club, I think he regrets it from a perspective that he's kind of lost that iconic status. Because let's be fair, he was a fan's favourite. We all loved David Luiz. I think we were all a bit pissed off when he went there. And he's upset with the fact that perhaps maybe he never had a chance to explain it, but at the same time, we never really had a chance to kind of get our heads around it. It kind of just happened out of the blue. It did happen rather quick. It did sort of come at us a bit sharpish. But I just wondered, guys, Claude's really pissed with that one because he said, well, I want him to go now, if that's the case. But does that change your thought process behind David Luiz? Do you feel any different towards him now? Because for sure, from the things that I pick up from supporters is they're just really, really disappointed with the fact that, he went about it. To be fair, he's not actually ever at any point sort of dug us out. He's not done a Jose, has he? Let's be fair. He's not sort of done nothing respective or whatever. And as I say, when he got sent off at our place in the draw, which we should never have drawn, at home to Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, we were all pretty happy when he got sent off. It was, but I just wonder, guys, does that change your thought process behind him at all? Or just let us know down below in the comment section. It'd be interesting to find out. Other news, and I guess this is just reference the speculation, and it is speculation because we haven't even finished this season yet, regarding the transfer rumours. It seems that it's the same general sort of suspects that we're linked with all the time. Obviously, Jadon Sancho's the biggest one, where we're kind of linked with him, but also Real Madrid, Liverpool, Manchester City, even. And Manchester United is probably our biggest threat, are also in from. It's going to be a big transfer now. Where it's coming across in the papers from this perspective is that, one, Roman Abramovich, and I'm going to talk about him in a minute because seriously I've got a lot to say about him. has indicated that the money's there. So whatever it's going to cost to get the player, £120 million is what they're sort of talking about. And Dortmund know, yeah, that they're in a commanding position because he's a player in demand. You know, he's young, talented, and he's had a tremendous season up until the point where we are right now. But a lot of the papers are saying that we've kind of now leapfrogged everybody else, and perhaps now we're in front of the Manchester United angle, because he keeps going on about how he loves Chelsea because he's a Chelsea supporter. So that puts us in that kind of bracket where, you know. And another aspect as well is that Barcelona was another club that was interested, but apparently they've got some financial issues right now, and they've literally just ruled themselves out, which is why we're getting linked right now with Philippe Coutinho, because although he's playing in a red shirt at Bayern Munich right now, he's a Barcelona player, and rumour has it they're willing to take quite a loss in what they paid for him, around about £70 million loss. So apparently right now you can pick it up for 50-60 million, and it's rather interesting, isn't it? Frank Leboeuf, the next Chelsea player, is saying he's not, you know, stick with the youth, and it will definitely upset. You know, we've got lots of players in that position. Why do you want to do him? I think he's a class player, Coutinho, and I'd actually be quite happy if we did go and get him. And I think for 50-60 million pounds, I think that's an absolute scoop, you know, if we can pick that one up. But that one really is gathering a lot of heat, you know, it's not going away, that one, you know, and I believe, you know, he is a player, if he's available, that I think Frank would be really interested in. Again, you know, let us know what you think about those two issues there, guys, with Jadon Sancho and Philippe Coutinho. But the other players, of course, are the same ones. We're still after this left back, and Alex Telles is one that doesn't seem to go away. Ben Chilwell too. And apparently we've now gone on a par, or at least now leapfrogged Liverpool in terms of the striker scenario with Timo Werner. But if rumour has it right, his preference, if he was going to move to England, would be to play for Liverpool. But we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But the rumour is really that Roman Abramovich has got plenty of funds available, and he's making it very, very clear that money's in the bag, waiting to go, and you know, we need to strengthen. He realises that factor, and for me, it's always about quality over quantity right now. We've done the quantity one, or at least that good player, £30-40 million player. Now we want those exceptional players that can fit around a really talented, and it is a really talented squad that we have right now, and the players mentioned there would all fit the bill as far as I'm concerned. Now, another one as well is Craig Burley, and I've mentioned this before, an ex-Chelsea player. He's going on about Raul Jimenez, Mexican striker at Wolverhampton Wanderers, and his analogy is based around the fact that he's at the right age, 28 years of age, which is basically the prime of your career in terms of being a footballer, so it seems. The fact that he's proven already in the English Premier League, so he understands the physical side of the game. He's 18 months he's played at Wolverhampton Wanderers and done really well too, because if you look at his stats, it's 39 goals in 88 games. Now, it's not like he's up for sale or anything along those lines, or even Wolves are even interested, but it is to be said that if a big club with bigger ambitions were to come in, I think at the age of 28, it possibly could be a runner, and he's proven. So again, I mean, do you agree with Craig Burley on that one, or would you stick to where we're at? And I suppose you could say, or could argue, because obviously Tammy Abraham hasn't signed his new deal yet. We don't want to sort of, he is the main man, isn't he, Tammy, right? You don't want maybe a super, because obviously what I thought was a really good runner before was when we were linked with more of an experienced type player, but an older type player. I don't know, I think that would work, Rail Gymnast, because Tammy's so young, his future's ahead of him, you know, and like Edison Cavani would have made sense to me when we were linked with him in the past, because he could have Tammy could have learned lots and lots off someone with that a player with that sort of amount of experience, and he's prolific, and we know that he could adapt, but he'd only also be there for the short term too, so there'd be no sort of pressure on Tammy's shoulders, like, you know. Other kind of news, it's rather interesting. I think Jose Mourinho's in the process of doing another book, another chapter in his life, and he does, what's come out of it was the fact that before he joined Chelsea in the first spell, he was actually heading to Anfield. Apparently he was 100% going to Liverpool, join Liverpool. It was Peter Kenyon that managed to persuade him not. And just wondered how things would have turned out there, guys. Maybe, you know, would things have worked out the way they had, or was Claudio Ranieri, bearing in mind that in their first season under Roman Abramovich, you know, we finished second. We got to the semi-finals of the Champions League, and we the only reason why we finished second that year was Arsenal's invincible year, wasn't it? And then all those new additions the following year. Would Claudio Ranieri won it anyway? You know, I suppose there's that argument to have, like, you know. But obviously we know it didn't work out that way, and the man that was in the stadium for the semi-final against Monaco, Jose Mourinho, ended up, of course, being our first team coach, and the rest, as they say, is history. Also on the transfer front, the Sun are going on about Dries Martins, because he's a free agent this summer in Belgium, and according to Corriere dello Sport, we were involved in that. Napoli's all-time scorer, although rumour has it our former manager Antonio Conte is interested in going to Inter Milan. Well, we'll just again have to wait and see on that one. Now, I'm going to mention Joey Cole in a minute and link that up with Roman Abramovich, but one thing that Joey Cole said, and this is again just staying with the players, and he was drawing a similar analogy to Manchester United, and he's saying that basically whatever happens, he's pleading with Chelsea not to allow Willian, Olivier Giroud and Pedro to leave, all three to leave, because as we know that all their contracts are up at the end of this season, so they can all go on a free. So, I mean, they're free, absolute quality players there that anyone could pick up. And he's basically saying, look, how can you replace three iconic players like that with all the experience in the world? And he's saying that as far as our youngsters are concerned, they can learn so much from them players that it'd be criminal, absolutely criminal to let them go, because they are big-time players and they know what to do, and they're winners, absolute winners. And it'd be absolutely ridiculous. And he draws the same analogy with Manchester United and what Alex Ferguson did, where they ended up keeping, when they were blooding in the youngsters and bringing in new players and rebuilding a new side. But what he did keep together, Ferguson, was Giggs, Scholes and Phil and Gary Neville. And he's using that same analogy there. What do you think about that, guys? I mean, Willian especially, isn't it? Because it would be a tragedy, and I'd hate to see him play in a United or a Spurs shirt. We know Jose Mourinho's a big admirer of Willian, so I really wouldn't like to see that happen. But I think Willian wants 3 years, and that's the problem. I think Chelsea are happy to offer 2. But I think Pedro and Olivier Giroud are, you know, they're gone. But do you agree with what Joey Cole's saying there? You know, do you think it'd be absolutely madness to see them disappear? Those 3 players with all the experience that they have. Now, I want to talk about Chelsea now, and in particular Roman Abramovich. Now, many of you, it's on the the Facebook group, would know that there was a petition floating about, and just really something I'll try to get going viral or trending or whatever. for him to have at the very, very least, a visa from the British government. The reason why I say it is it's been absolutely just tremendous. It's 2 hotels, not just one now, but 2. That's the Millennium, where for the last 3-4 weeks, the NHS have been using those facilities free of charge. He's now tossed in the second hotel, the Copthorne, and he's saying you can have them both, and he's feeding them through the hospitality there, their breakfasts and their evening meals. But not only that, they've gone so much further than that. It's free parking, help the aged. They're now doing 13,000 meals, free meals a week, Chelsea, and 78,000 free meals, and working with the women's refuge and 5 major hospitals in the local area. I just think he's been unbelievable, really, and you know he's making sure that everyone's getting paid, and that even includes the stewards and the lottery sellers that operate outside the stadium. He's honouring everything, and let's be fair, he's not got citizenship. He's not even allowed to come over. He's not even allowed to work in this country, even though he's pumped billions and billions into this. I mean, God knows how many jobs he's created. I just can't get my head around it. And when this all came about, really, because of the diplomatic relations between the UK and the Russian Federation, and you know, Putin and all that. But that was a different Tory government. That was Theresa May, and that was her government. And I just think that things have kind of been proved a little bit. It's all gone a bit pear-shaped, really. It's everything where they were chucking everything onto Russia. It was Russia's fault about everything. It's now turning out now that it's nothing like that at all. So I'm just looking at it now and I'm thinking, come on, do you know what I mean? The easiest thing in the world he could have done right now is to put all the issues onto somebody else. You know, he's sat there over in Israel, and he's got the opportunity right now to put it onto the British taxpayer, because let's be fair, even though the government are picking up the tab right now, we know that down the line it's going to be the British taxpayer that's still going to have to pay it. You know, it's not like government have just got this magic money; it has to be paid somehow, and he's not even got himself into that, and he's picking up plaudits everywhere. And I made a few notes here that I think with a petition, I think it either gets to 1,000 or 10,000. I think if it's 1,000, it gets acknowledged by the government to the point where they have to actually, reply to it or do something about it. If it's 10,000, I think it gets brought up in Parliament. And he is gathering momentum, and I just think he's well overdue. And linking that up, I have to say, going back to Joe Cole, well, what can I say about Joe Cole? He's been doing some mega work as well. What do I write about Joe Cole? I know he's pumped in a lot of his money himself. He's raised £750,000 in less than a month to provide NHS workers with personal protective equipment. And he was one of the first, if not the first, footballers to lead the fight against the coronavirus. And he paid him personally 25 grand himself, Joe Cole. Absolute class. And his personal charity Heroes, they purchased 70 3D printers at their London hub, which is capable of making 17,000 visors a day for our healthcare heroes. Massive respect to Joey Cole, massive respect to Roman Abramovich and Chelsea Football Club. And my message out there really is to the British government: fair dues. This is a man that deserves to be able to think of the billions, millions he's put into the UK economy, as I say, and he's got a football club there worth £2-3 billion, and come on, play the game. It's just not right, But fair play to Chelsea, fair play to Joey Cole. Now, one of the last things I'll say is, I don't know if you see, guys, and if you're on the Chelsea SW6 Facebook group, you would have seen there was a simulation of the ending of the league table. It was done by a computer, and obviously Liverpool won the title, followed by Manchester City. Leicester finished third. They had Leicester finishing third, but we were just tucking behind. I think 2 points behind in fourth spot. So we, according to the computer, we would have got into the Champions League position. Manchester United finished fifth, 3 points behind us, but they would have taken Manchester City's Champions League spot because of their implications with UEFA. But interesting enough, guys, they had Wolves finishing after that, Sheffield United, then Spurs, then Arsenal. They had Arsenal finishing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th position, followed obviously by Everton. And the three clubs they had going down was Norwich, Aston Villa and Bournemouth, just in front of West Ham. 3 points or 2 points, the differential there. But I think that's pretty much it, guys, in terms of what's out there with regards to Chelsea. As I say, let us know what you think down below in the comments section. All I'll say to you guys is right now, it's all about staying safe, staying high frequency. I know I'll go on about it, but it's so important. The mindset, change the pictures in your mind. And always think positive, and the most important aspects are understanding, appreciation, and of course the most important thing of all, love. And I love you guys out there, and I'm going to put some stuff up. One of the things, I don't know if you see, guys, when I was talking to Claude last night about it, is we are going to do an alternative thing, maybe 2 a week, one on each channel, one on mine, where we're talking about old school things and what it was like back in the day, and giving it a comparable look to what it's like today. But that's pretty much it then, guys, in terms of, before I go, and I cannot forget this one, rest in peace, massive rest in peace to Peter Bonetti, and equally rest in peace to Norman Hunter. And how sad is that? You know, on the 11th, we were kind of celebrating 50 years, 50th anniversary of that cup final, that 1970 cup final between Leeds and Chelsea. And the day after, we lose our goalkeeper, Peter Bonetti. And from that period of time, and also Leeds United's Norman Hunter, Norman Bites Your Legs, number 6, he played on that day. So 2 players from that final. A few days later, after the 50th anniversary, we lose them. Like, you know, when God rest their souls, I think Chelsea have already started to put a little memorial site together for people to be able to go and pay their respects. And indeed, there's talk in terms of another statue, just like Peter Osgood. And the thing about Peter Bonetti is what, AKA the Cat, he was a very sort of familiar face at Chelsea. He'd been there a long, long time. And I remember him being in the away ends of many a game. And he's just a Chelsea man, you know, an iconic Chelsea man. And rest in peace, Peter, and respect and rest in peace to Norman Hunter. And rivalries aside, guys, you know, he's a human being, and he was an iconic player. And, you know, and you have to respect that. And it's just so sad, isn't it? Just really so sad to see, you know, and hear about that sort of news. But anyway, guys, as I say, love you loads. I'll speak to you all soon, and as always, keep the blue flag flying high. Speak to you soon.